studying how to study with an atheist. Now, so what we're going to do to start out with is talk about what they believe, and then we'll go from there. We'll get into the study from there. Because studying with an atheist is different than studying with someone in a denomination. How might that be different?
Most denominations believe already in the Bible.
Right. Most denominations have some concept that they believe in the Scriptures, and they already believe in God. When you're studying with an atheist, you're starting from scratch. There's no belief of any kind in that person. They don't believe there is a God, for the most part. So we'll get into this study for just a moment. All right. What they believe. Most atheists believe the theory of evolution, and most of them believe in the Big Bang. So the theory of evolution is coupled with cosmology and abiogenesis. Those are some big words, and we're going to define some of those in just a moment. And other different ologies. This leads to a comprehensive model of the origin of species. Anyone know who wrote that book, The Origin of Species?
Darwin.
Charles Darwin. The Earth itself, the solar system, and the rest of the universe. The universe started in a Big Bang, a natural phenomenon, not involving God in any way. The coalescence of the Earth, the development of its crust, appearance of life, the form of single-celled organisms. Basically, if you read this page, I would ask that you read it sometime tonight or tomorrow or sometime this week. Go down through there, and what they're saying is everything that exists today came about because there was nothing, and then somehow it all popped into existence. That's the basics of it. Now we're going to look at some of these things that they believe. We're going to look at what the Scriptures say, and we're going to go into that.
But this is what is taught in school.
Yes, this is what is taught in school. I was taught this in math or science class. This will be taught in most colleges, most universities. If you have little kids, they put it in little books, the little pop-up books with the dinosaurs. They'll slip it in there. They put this everywhere. So we're going to look at it and discuss how to talk to someone who believes this, because a growing part of our nation is starting to believe this. So the first thing that you don't do with an atheist is start with the Bible. It's the first thing you don't do. Because if I walk up and say, God created the earth, how do you know? Because it's in Genesis 1:1. They're going to say, well, what's Genesis 1:1? What does that have to do with me? The place that you start with someone who doesn't believe in God is science. That's the first place you start with them. Why do you think that is?
That's their new Bible.
That's basically their Bible. So they believe that their belief is not based on faith at all. There's no trust at all. Everything is seen in cold, hard facts. So if you can show them that their cold, hard facts don't match up with what they're saying, what happens to their belief system? It's gone. It's lost. They gave it up. So we don't start with the Bible with them. We start with what they believe, where they are, what they're being taught. One thing that's important, number 3, is to get them to define their definition of the word faith. Because their definition and our definition are two different things. Has anyone ever studied with an atheist or talked to an atheist? Yeah? Whenever they use the word faith, what do they say? What do they say faith is? Something you believe but can't what? Prove. They say faith is something you believe and cannot prove. Make sure you get them to say that. Make sure you get them to agree that's what they believe. That's important later on. Alright? Get them to define what makes something scientific. What's real science? If someone was to say to you, what is science? What would you say? Prove. Something you can prove, something you can see, something you can test, something you can touch, something you can observe in the world, something you can try over and over again and see it repeatedly, right? That's science. Something that's hands-on, something that's physically, tangibly touchable. All right. This is our solar system. We're this little. Okay? To give you an idea of how big the scope of the universe that they're talking about is. That's us, that little dot right there. That's us just in our galaxy. That's us. If you zoom away with the Hubble telescope, that's where we are. We're that little dot. What we've seen of the universe We're somewhere in there. We're somewhere in that little dot. That's the scope of how big we're talking about. And they believe it all just happened.
We
How
believe
realistic
it all
is it?
just happened.
Do what?
We believe it all just happened.
We believe something caused it. They believe that it just happened. That there was nothing and then that. So let's look at some things to discuss with them about that. First, the first law of thermodynamics. What is that? In a simplified form. Letter A.
Thermodynamics,
Yes, sir. First law.
that'd be like the study of heat and temperature and
Yes.
how they relate.
Yes, sir. The first law, number A. What is that? Or letter A. Number A. Letter A.
Energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if there at one point was absolutely nothing, which is where we have to go, if we're going to say all of this came from nothing, then how can you have nothing and then have something? How can you have no energy and then have energy? If science says energy cannot be created or destroyed, how does that fit into their worldview? What is everything about their belief based on? Just science. Everything just happens. So they have to have cold, hard facts, right? That's what their belief system is based upon. They have to have facts. All right, what's the second law of thermodynamics?
Entropy.
Entropy. All right, what does that say?
Means my room gets messier, it doesn't get cleaner on its own.
Right, your room, that's a good example. Your room gets messier over time. You start your car up, the gasoline begins to burn. Does that last forever? Why not? You're using it. So as you use it, what happens to it? Wears down. You put on an article of clothing. You wear that same shirt for 30 years. Not anymore, but if you wear that same shirt for 30 years, what happens over time? Starts getting tears and holes, and it starts breaking down. It starts corrupting. It starts going to waste. Now what they're saying is there was nothing. There was a big explosion. Okay? Big explosion. Things are shooting everywhere. Rocks are going over here. Fire's going over here. Everything is exploding. And then it all organized. Does that fit with the second law? Everything went into complete chaos and then turned around and organized itself. Does that fit with the second law?
No.
No, it doesn't fit. That would be like your car that you're driving. You're driving a 1993 Pinto. And as you're driving down the road, it turns into a 2014 Rolls Royce. That's basically what they're talking about. That everything went into absolute chaos, and then it all whoop, back together into organization. Does that fit with the second law? No? All right. Undoubtedly, when you study this with someone, they're going to say the very next one. What is the next thing there? C. Closed system. They're going to say, okay, the rules of thermodynamics doesn't apply because the universe isn't a closed system. Let's look at what a closed system is. A closed system can exchange energy but not matter with its surroundings. So what they're saying is in this closed system, there's nothing coming in and there's nothing going out. Okay? So they say, well, that only applies in a closed system. Is there anything outside of this universe? Are there tons and tons of universes or just one universe? What's the word mean? Universe. What's that word mean? Uni. One. So universe, which means there's what outside of this one? Nothing. So there's nothing outside of this universe. Now there's multiple galaxies, but one universe. So in the purest sense of being a closed system, is our universe a closed system? Is there anything coming into this universe from outside of it? No? Is there anything leaving this universe and going out into another one? No? So this is a true closed system. So the laws of thermodynamics apply to all of this. So what they're saying is energy was created and everything got better over time. Does that fit with the laws of science? Anywhere? No, it doesn't. And then you have an isolated system and an open system, and you can read about those. All right, the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect states that for every cause, or that every cause has an effect, and every effect becomes a cause of something else. This law suggests that the universe is in constant motion and progress from a chain of events. For every cause, or every effect has a what? Cause. Every effect has a cause. Are we an effect? Yes. Is energy an effect? Yes. Anyone? Everything that is an effect, right? So if everything is an effect, then there has to be a what? To everything? Cause. And if we can't have it naturally, if we couldn't have a natural creation, then what do we have?
Supernatural.
A supernatural creation. Does that fit into the worldview of an atheist? No. But they're going to have to answer that question. They're going to have to bring that into their reality. That can't happen under the rules I believe. That can't happen into all the things I've been taught. All right, let's get G. This is what your children will be taught in school. G. We're going to read G and then we're going to read H right behind it. All right, G. Spontaneous generation. What's that second word? Obsolete. What does obsolete mean? It's no longer used. It's no longer believed. They even admit this isn't real. Spontaneous generation, an obsolete body of thought on the ordinary formation of living organisms without descent from similar organisms. Typically, the idea was that certain forms, such as fleas, could arise from inanimate matter such as dust. So a living creature was coming from dead things. Or that maggots could arise from dead flesh. They would see a piece of meat laying out, they'd see bugs start inside of it, and they said, aha! Flies come from meat. We figured it out. That's what they believed. Flies come from meat. But they got to studying and said, that's not right. You can't have something living come from something dead. That doesn't make sense. Now I want you to read now what they're teaching in schools, right underneath it. Biogenesis is the natural process of life arising from non-living matter such as simple organic compounds. Is there any difference between G and H other than rewording?
Not really.
No. No. But they're teaching it. But they're teaching it. They taught the sun ignited, boom, fires in the sky. Then the earth formed, then the moon, and then over time you had some particles over here, some proteins, and some amino acids, and they got together and they made a living thing. And they grew and grew and grew and turned into bigger organisms and more complex organisms. And they turned into bacteria, and then they turned into fish, and then fish turned into reptiles, and then you had insects flying around, and the dinosaurs came about, and a giant meteor hit the earth, killed everything on it except for the small mammals, and the small mammals turned into primates, and primates turned into us.
Aren't we lucky?
That's what they teach in school. That's a shortened version.
I don't think that's all right.
No, sir. No, sir. Now let's look at a real law of science, the law of biogenesis. The law of biogenesis is the observation. What is science? Something you can what? Observe. All right. Is the observation that living things come only from living things by reproduction. Spiders lay eggs. What comes out of the egg? Will anything else ever come out of that egg? No. If a spider lays eggs, is there a fly coming out of it? No. All right, which develop into spiders. That is, life does not arise from non-living material, which was the position held by spontaneous generation. This observation is one of the central statements of cell theory. So something we still teach, something we have specialists in, cell theory, still use this today. That things only come from things like themselves. A human always creates another what? Every time. A pig always creates what? Every single time. There's no mistakes in that. Now, can that human be taller or shorter? Yeah. Can they look a little different? Yeah. But are they still human? Will you ever see a dog turn into a cat? Ever? No. Will a mouse ever turn into a kangaroo? No. Even if that mouse gets really, really big, is it going to begin to stand upright on those 2 feet? No. So the law of biogenesis says life only comes from things like itself. This right here is in every textbook in America, in your science classes. I had a science teacher tell me to my face, we are nothing but advanced apes. That's all we are. And I was like, why am I listening to him? If I'm just an ape and he's just an ape, what can he teach me? Where's the reason to be moral? Who cares? The laws of biogenesis. Now they've come up with some people over the years. We found the missing link. We found the missing link. Now you're going to see those a lot. Truth. Never once. Mark this down for all of those Time magazine articles you've seen. Mark it down. Never once have they found a bipedal ancestor to man. Not even once. First it was Lucy. Anybody remember Lucy? Heard about Lucy?
Yeah.
Nearly all experts now agree Lucy was just a 3-foot-tall chimpanzee. They never come back and corrected that, did they? Remember how it was all over the news? We found what? The missing link. All right, Heidelberg man. They built him from a jawbone. Yes, they built him from a jawbone. That's all they had. They had his jaw, and they said, ooh, a new species. That's literally all they had. Turns out, it was, guess what? A human jawbone. Nebraska man, scientifically built up. You're going to love this. From one tooth. They found a tooth and said, this can't be man. They were right. It wasn't a man. It belonged to a pig. But they built an entire, look at that. They built that entire thing off of a tooth. Piltdown man. Jawbone turned out to be a modern ape. They had one they called the Peking man, supposedly 500,000 years old. But everything about him has disappeared. Neanderthal man. At the International Congress of Zoology, Dr. A.J.E. Cave said his examination showed that this famous skeleton found in France over 50 years ago is that of an old man suffering from arthritis. And more studies on that shows he suffered from a lot of other things. He had rickets and he had a lot of things going on with his muscular system. That's the man who found it. All right, New Guinea man dates all the way back to 1970. This species has been found in the region just north of Australia. Does he look any different than this guy? No. Cro-Magnon man, one of the earliest and best established fossils, is at least equal in physique and brain capacity to modern man. There's no physical difference between that, what they said there, and us. You know what the only difference is? They've labeled him in a lab as Cro-Magnon and not human. That's the only difference. There's no difference in brain. There's no difference in physical appearance. There's no difference in strength. The only difference is he was either a short, stocky man, and then modern man. Tell me something. If you put my skeleton, I'm all of 5'9", maybe 5'8". Don't tell anybody. And you put me next to who? Joe? Well, you put me next to, anyone remember that wrestler, Andre the Giant? Are our bones going to look different? Is his physical bones going to look different? Are they going to be thicker than mine? Is his facial structure going to be a little different than mine? Yes. If you take any of us and put us next to somebody from somewhere else, are our skeletons going to be identical? No. You take someone who's had polio. Is their skeleton going to look just like mine? It's going to look different. So if we find a human skeleton and it just looks a little bit different than that one, can we label that person no longer human because we look different? Genetically, we're the same. There's no difference. You can extract the DNA, there's no difference in it. But we look different. Does that work? That doesn't work, does it? How far can we take that? You can't get life insurance because you look different than him. That doesn't work. You're not human because you look different. This, sadly, is still in many textbooks. You'll see them start here with the primate, and they'll go all the way up to the man holding a spear. And they don't have any of them. But they teach it that they do. If you say you have something you don't, what do we call that? A lie. If I say I have something that I don't have, that's a lie. So studying with an atheist. All right? So we know that what they're believing, what they're being taught, is not according to science, right? That's pretty clear. That what they're being taught in school doesn't line up with scientific fact. Right? All right, so let's look at what the Bible has to say. Second law of thermodynamics. Everything's running down over time. Someone read Isaiah 51 verse 6 for us, if you would.